guys, I'm doing my world geography project for Coach Pigeon. I am Tiffany Gradovich, and I'm starting with topic 4, the levels of economic development. The first thing is the explanation of less developed. Less developed is pretty much the countries that are like really poor and they have a low standard of living and pretty much they're like the bad third world countries. The next one is more developed. More developed is like it's better than less, but it's still not like all the way up there. Pretty much they have a slightly higher standard of living than the less developed, and they're all right, but they can do better. And the next one is newly industrialized. Pretty much they have a high standard of living. They're like they they used to be like agriculture or whatever, but now they're like updated and industrialized and whatnot. Excuse me. And they basically urbanized. Okay, after that is the definition of HDI and the four factors used to measure it. HDI is the Human Development Index, and it's pretty much like it's like the process of achieving, like basically like the well-being and everything, and uh, it's like basically life expectancy, birth rate, um, literacy rate, all like what else? Literacy rate, and then like the basically how the country's doing. Yeah, so life expectancy, birth rate, literacy rate, and GPD per capita. Yeah. After that is globalization. Globalization. Yeah. Globalization is pretty much like the the bringing together of economies. I can't economies and societies around the world, and it's pretty much like having everything work together in the whole world. And an example of this would be like, okay, euros in Europe or dollars in America, because like you don't have to like get different kinds of bills every time. Like say we live in Texas, if I were to go to Chicago, I'd have to get like a whole different type of money. But because we have the dollar bills and the quarters and pennies and nickels and all of that, I don't have to do that. So that's a good example. The next thing is the choke point. Choke points are basically like little like rifts or whatever, and they're like they can be closed or blocked to like stop like the traffic and whatnot, and like basically like to control a little strait. And some examples of it are the Panama Canal, the Strait of Malacca, the Suez Canal, and the Strait of Magellan. Magellan, you know what I mean. Alright, what is next? The positives and negatives associated with international trade. The positives and negatives. Okay. The positives and negatives associated with international trade is pretty much like, okay, the positives is you're in your nation, you know that you don't have to like go with other countries and trade and all of that, and like you don't have to like rely on other countries to get the materials you need. But then the negatives of it is that you can't get all the materials that the other countries do have. So like say you need something that they only have in Asia, but you're doing international trade only, so you can't get the same materials that the people in Asia have, and the people in Asia that need your materials can't get it either because you're not in the same like nation. So that's the positives and negatives of international trade. The next thing is the definition of free trade agreement. The definition of free trade agreement is basically like where countries establish like an area to do all of that, and like basically it's just like helping countries trade with each other. And yeah, so then there's the NAFTA. The NAFTA. Um, the NAFTA is pretty much like the North American Free Trade Agreement. It involved the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, and it was basically like to encourage trade by eliminating tariffs on goods and everything that are traded between U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And yeah, pretty much it. It pretty much like depended on the product for the tariffs to be like lowered the rates and everything, and it's pretty good. And yeah, so this is the end of the first video, and you can go to the next video. You can go to the next video to see the rest of them, which are the explanation of the European Union, a visual representation in the form of an original map or cartoon to show the impact of the NAFTA in the EU, and the summarization of impacts on trade and HDI and choke points and everything. So go to my next video and you can see that.